Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. The search for a solution is a powerful force and dominates the life of the alcoholic. This pursuit is so powerful because we are pursuing an end that is hardwired by the natural law. We were made to have integrity. But the purpose of our lives cannot be founded on emotion. The spiritual malady can be summarized as the subjugation of reason to desire. And because the purpose of the life of the addict is founded on this subjugation, the addict suffers from a separation from reality that pervades their entire life, and not just any one component of their life. If the steps are to effect a solution, they must get the addict in touch with reality. And because blindness to others and of God is just an offshoot of blindness to self, the addict must come to a truth about themselves. Addiction is an illusion of power. This illusion is founded on the fundamental truth of man's free will. Man was given the power to choose freely. He is given the power to rule his life through his free moral actions. For the addict to admit one's impotence, to admit that despite one's best effort he has failed to meet his end, is to admit that though he was made to be free, he now is not. Is to admit that on a fundamental level he has failed to be human. This truth is understandably difficult. This truth is an act of prudence, the virtue that orders the mind to reality. As I have said, alcoholism is all about power. The begins his career with alcohol because there was something in his life that was out of control, usually emotions. Alcoholism is an abuse of power, a display of power that is contrary to the natural law. Alcoholism begins this way. First, there is a finite creature with limited power. Limited power leads to vulnerability. Vulnerability leads to fear. Fear leads to lack of acceptance. Lack of acceptance leads to delusion. And delusion leads to alcohol to maintain delusion. Alcoholism begins with a flight from the basic truth that we are finite creatures. If the first step is an act of justice, it must rectify this. And so we admit we are powerless. We have come full circle. We began with powerlessness and we end with powerlessness. The first step acknowledges this basic truth that we are a finite creature. A selfish man cannot know the truth because he approaches the truth with an agenda, which is his own self-interest. He is the measure of what is true and false, and this measure is his desire, his feelings. He distorts reality in such a way that truth won't get in the way of his selfishness and egoism. This is the alcoholic. The entire emotional life of the addict is ordered towards the maintenance of a drug habit. All the things that could be said about alcoholism can be reduced to this. The addict simply desires drugs and will not let reality get in the way. Then, to admit the first step is to admit the truth that runs counter to the entire emotional life of the addict. And this is a profound act of temperance. This is the beginning of ordering our emotions to reason. It is the beginning of genuine integrity. The inclination to preserve one's life is one of the most powerful inclinations we have. It is a part of the natural law. This is where fear enters into the picture. The purpose of fear is to help preserve life, but like all good things, it is perverted by alcoholism. For the alcoholic, fear preserves egoism. Of all things that one can be frightened of, the alcohol fears the truth. The alcoholic fears the truth. As I have said, the first step centers on the fact that I am a finite creature. It is this humble truth that the alcoholic fears. For if I am finite, I can be hurt. Therefore, the first step is an act of fortitude. It is the pursuit of a greater good which leads to the truth despite fear. And this act is the beginning of ordering the emotions to reason. It is fear that leads to self-delusion. Therefore, in order to come to the truth, one must overcome fear. One must have fortitude. This act of fortitude opens up the addict to make him vulnerable, which will become important in later steps.